Hi, this is David Harbour, and today I'm hanging out with Stephen Prusakowski on TV Topics.
Hey, where's the remote? It's time for TV Topics.
Welcome to TV Topics, David, and
Thank
congratulations on the Emmy nominations.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we will get into your Emmy-nominated work on DTF St. Louis and probably talk about a little bit of Stranger Things in just a few. But first, let's start with some TV topics. Remember, there's no pressure, no right or wrong answers, and it's all just a bit of fun. So,
Sure.
Looking back over the years, what was your relationship with TV? Were you a TV junkie who watches everything? Very selective? Did you have go-to shows?
The last few years, I've been pretty selective, actually. My tolerance is not that great, and my attention span's not that great. So a show's got to be really in the pocket for me in a special way that I like for me to enjoy it.
What about going back to the early years when you were a kid?
Well, I mean, back to the early years, yeah. As a kid, I watched everything. I was such a TV junkie. I even was remembering the other day of like early shows on HBO. Like I remember watching Dream On with Brian Benben on,
Yeah.
I think it was like the first original series they ever did. But yeah, I used to watch, I used to watch cartoons growing up, Saturday morning cartoons after school, G.I. Joe, Transformers, all that stuff. And then I would watch like 30 something with my dad at night. That was a big one. And yeah, I just watched a ton of TV.
Yeah, having HBO it wasn't in my house, so I had to go to my friend's house and explore where the other side lived and see things like Dream On and like, ooh, what is this? They're swearing, they're just like so bizarre. And how about a primetime show? The first one you remember that you really loved, no matter how good or bad it was your show.
I do remember Facts of Life being like a huge show for me and having a huge crush on Nancy, who was the girl who fixed the motorcycles or something. But I just loved Charlotte Rae and all those girls and that whole boarding school thing. Yeah, I love Facts of Life.
Yeah, great theme song too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I shared the same crush. It started with Blair early on, but then when Joe showed up, Nancy McKeon.
Joe, yeah.
Yeah. There's something about motorcycle riding women at the time.
For sure.
That sounds weird. How about a show that makes you laugh most? Is there one that is guaranteed to make you laugh that you'd put on whenever you just want to pick me up?
Yeah, I mean, I really like that show Rick and Morty. I think thing is genius, especially the first like 5 seasons. I think is really incredible. So I'll put those on. I'll also put on South Park. Something about animated shows, like really smart animated shows that I like.
Yeah, I think they could say a lot more than like a live action show because you can kind of break some of the rules with their visual storytelling, but also people kind of sneak under the radar. Like South Park no longer sneaks under the radar, but early on people just thought, oh, it's a kid show. But like, there's so much more than a kid show there.
Yeah, it's not a kid show. Yes.
What about a show that makes you are crying? Do you cry when you watch TV? And if so, what's the last show that made you cry?
Well, I mean, I do remember growing up with 30 something. And when I was a teenager watching that at night, I think it was like 9 o'clock on a Thursday or 8 o'clock on a Thursday or Wednesday, maybe. But I remember that being a very emotional show and very, like they really laid into. And as a teenager, your emotions are already so heightened anyway. And so I think I wanted to associate with my dad as well. And my dad loved it and very much identified with the Ken Olin character. And so I would just watch with him. And I think that one would make me cry. But that was a long time ago. But.
No, that's a good one. It doesn't have to be. It does. I mean, like I said, everything here has kind of got some wiggle room. The amazing thing is how people of a certain age, well, of most ages, except for the last decade or so, know when shows were on. Remember, Tuesday nights at 8 was this, followed by that.
Right.
Fridays were this. And then also the fact that the connection with watching with your father. I had the same thing. We had our shows and some of them I just watched just to hang out and be there with my dad and like, what's he doing? Just a unique thing that how TV brings people together in ways that you wouldn't expect and in such a almost global way.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you could play one pre-existing TV character, no matter the genre, no matter the time period, and you're not going to the other version is going to remain. People always get hung up on that. Oh, wait, I can't do it better. But you just want to take on this role for any reason. Which one would it be and why?
There's shows that I really admire and think are amazing. Let's not choose one of them. I'll choose a show again from my youth. I think I'd like to play Gerald McRaney in Simon and Simon, which was a detective show from the 80s. And I just remember that relationship with him and his brother, and that I just love that show.
Which Simon was he?
He was the older brother with the mustache. And
The
there
mustache?
was AJ, who was like the young, pretty one. He was always giving him shit for that. No, I met him at the Emmys, I think the first year I went, back in 2017, 16, 17, something like that. Yeah, he was there. It was cool.
Very cool.
He looks good in a tux.
He looked good as a doctor, so he does it all. All right, well, let's get into some DTF St. Louis. This series, I mean, I found its secret weapon is how it slowly revealed itself. Gradually, you kind of discover the characters, even the themes, even the tone of it is not, when you step in, you may not know what you're getting, because as it evolves, it shifts. I read that you originally brought an article that inspired the idea for the show to Steve Conrad. Is that correct, first of all? And can you talk to me, if it is, can you tell me a little bit about what sparked the initial interest?
It was sort of a series of things that I brought to him. There were a couple articles. There was also there were just themes in my life and things that I wanted to talk about, but it was kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different ideas that I brought to him. And then he had a structure for this thing that felt really great. I think that, what I wanted was some kind of almost Coen Brothers-esque world. And I wanted some way to take like suburban noir and subvert or flip its genre on its head. And yeah, I just wanted something, very entertaining. And he just delivered in so many ways. But it was something where, yeah, I approached him and he just took the reins like crazy and just created this whole incredible world.
The balance of the humor and the drama is one of the things that really stands out to me, is how to tell this story that has so much human emotion and layers of humanity, but then there's genuinely funny moments that just emerge from the human behavior rather than just punchlines and being set up and delivery. Even the seeds that read as comedy on the page, could read as comedy on the page, kind of carry this emotional weight. How did you approach that, as a cast, and what was the initial, when you're sitting there reading the scripts, and if you're not given guidance, like I said, it could read one way and be delivered another. So how did you originally approach?
Sure. I mean, I think that we were conscious of a delicate tone the whole way through the 4-year process. So even in the writing of it, we'd get pages and we'd talk about it. And, sometimes it would go too far in terms of sort of silliness or almost poking fun at the characters at their expense. And then we'd pull it back and we'd go back to something maybe became too mundane or dramatic. And it was really this fine line of allowing the characters to have this whimsy to them. Steve describes it in this way that is quite extraordinary and beautiful, but he says that things exist sometimes as a pop-up book. And he says, when you're reading a pop-up book, you'll read a page and then something will pop out. And, we had these moments in the show with Floyd's pommel horse routine, or Jason's and my rap on those bikes, or just all these little moments where they're sort of larger than life, whimsical moments that I loved. And then in terms of the acting of it, I mean, that was a process too, in terms of the shooting of it. How do we find the right tone for it? I think, to be honest, when Linda came in and read for Carol, she just nailed it, the tone in such a sophisticated way. We hadn't started shooting, of course, and I was just so inspired by what she'd done that I was like, oh, she's really cracked it for me. She really helped me out here a lot. So I stole tons of stuff from her. And then even in the edit, I think we were going back and forth about, little ways in which we just keep you on your toes about whether or not it's funny or whether or not it's dramatic and blah, blah, blah. And I think it is a real delicate thing, and it's really a feel, and it really is a lot of time spent just trying to zhuzh it just right.
Yeah, there's one scene that stood out on another rewatch was the scene where you're hiding in the closet and you're seeing this blind gentleman walking into danger, and as you run out, like you're focused on that. Like first of all, you're focused on wait, you have to expose yourself. Come out here in the middle of this intimate moment and let yourself be seen, and kind of break up the illusion of them being alone. Go save this guy. But also in the middle of it, you throw out rim job, and I was like, I found that hilarious. Like what a perfect, like, because people said, oh, it's a drama, it's a mystery. I'm like, it is, but if you watch it and you kind of let down your expectations or focus on that, there's so much humor to it. And I just found that like just the perfect delivery, and but it says so much about the character too. It's like it's not you're helping this man cheat with your wife while you're going to save another man. I'm like, it's so complex.
Yeah, I mean, that's an example of, again, the zhuzhing that we're talking about, because that was an ADR line, which was like, it happened, we shot it all, that wasn't in it. And then like we watched the edits, and he was like, it'd be funny since she's spelling it out for him to just come out of the thing, will you come into the booth and just give me that line? And we did that. And that was, again, it's an example of that constant attention to tone where, as you say, like, yeah, it really adds. It's really additive. Yeah.
Can you give me 3 words to describe Floyd? And I'm curious if mine line up, but we'll see as we talk throughout this to see how much we're in tune.
Let's see. 3 words to describe Floyd: kind, insecure, and devoted.
Okay, I nailed one, the first one, but I was hoping for 3 for 3. But I have kind, lonely, and proud.
There you go.
But the
Pretty
insecure
close.
is definitely there as well. I probably need a 4th. So the relationship between Clark and Floyd is a very tender, it's unorthodox, yet at the core, it is these 2 people who are desperately wanting to matter to someone else. And what surprised me was when you're playing them is the dynamic of it is how they're both so needy, and but you have to put so much trust. I mean, as an actor, I think you have to put a lot of trust to nail that, to make that seem real and authentic. What was it like working with Jason on that to kind of develop that aspect of the relationship?
I mean, he's amazing. I adored working with him, like every moment. We had a couple conversations before we went in. We had a couple rehearsals before we went in, but not much. And we just sort of hit the ground running. I mean, he's such a pro. I don't think he needs much. And once we started doing these scenes, it was just like probably some of the most fun I've had acting my whole life. There was a vulnerability to him, and also he allowed me to have a vulnerability that I was just cracked open with. And I don't know, I mean, part of it too, like I've been working with a lot of kids for a long time, and there's something about another middle-aged man, the 2 of you, just we have such different experiences, but we also have such similar experiences, that I don't know, there was something about it. And you're not pretending, you're not putting on a super suit, you're not like running around with a gun, or you're just literally, being right in the pocket of difficulties of middle age. And it was so like refreshing to have like a friend that it was just like, I don't know, it just cracked me wide open, and it was just great.
Their earliest scene, I think, was after the newscast, is in a like a Quickie Mart type thing, and it's kind of sweet, kind of desperate, of him saying, "Hey, he's like, I'm sorry, I feel bad. I use your last name," and kind of bring him down a ill level. And then he's putting out Peyronie's disease, which I'm like, you don't usually throw that out in the middle of your first conversation. But there's something about it that shows how much, who this guy is and his insecurities, but also his need for someone else. And then Jason kind of, takes the bait and Clark, but takes the bait and builds it up. And you see this relationship that you at first think, if that happened to me, if someone came to me and starts bringing up their penal disorders, I probably wouldn't react the same. But in this situation where they both have these holes in them, they are people who feel lost. It becomes a kind of a beautiful scene.
Yeah, I think that his character seems more complete. I think because maybe he's more successful or he's more this, but at the end of the day, he's as you say, as needy, as desperate as Floyd is. And I think one of the brilliant choices that Jason makes throughout the series, he says he sort of makes Floyd the alpha very early on. And like every time Floyd's in the room, he just kind of gazes up at him like as he was staring. And I think that's such a smart choice for an actor to make. And it's so generous for the show because it doesn't make you look as good or whatever in a sense, but it makes the show work. Because if Floyd isn't needed by him, this show falls apart. So it was really smart. It was really great.
Yeah, there's kind of that sibling feeling there. He's a younger brother. No matter who's more successful, always looking up to the older brother, always finding something to respect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And some of the most revealing moments come in that basketball game where they're discussing just so much about how lost they are and the lack of connection and questioning themselves. But throughout the series, you're watching Floyd take on, put himself out in places where he doesn't need to. The dance classes, the ASL, trying to kind of find a place to fit in. Do you see him as someone? Why is he searching? What is it that you like as you're playing him? How did you perceive? What that hole is and what it is that creates him, or keeps him from feeling as someone who has a place in life or has someone to connect with.
Well, he started out, he was this Playgirl model, which he took great pride in and sort of let himself go and became this different thing. He got married and then he found the ASL stuff, which really gave him a new purpose, but also caused a huge rift and divide in his marriage. And I think he's not accepted by Carol for that, for the lack of ambition or for whatever, and he really needs that acceptance that there is this piece of him that really wants to just do good, whether or not it's known as societally successful or not, or whether or not we can buy a bigger house or not, or whatever. And she really can't accept that because she needs to be a survivor and because she needs to protect and she needs to make the home. And I think that fundamental divide between the two of them is he doesn't know how to reconcile it. I think the two of them are doing their best, but they don't know how to reconcile it. And so he needs someone who understands him. And I mean, the fact that Clark learned sign language with him, the fact that he thinks it's beautiful that he does sign language, all that stuff, I think is so arresting to Floyd that it crosses over into this biological territory too, where I think there is these moments when he thinks like, he thinks maybe this is what love is. I mean, I think that he's very confused about love at that point in his life and with his wife's inability to accept him. And so I think that's really where the need comes from, is like, and he's just searching desperately for someone to accept him. And I think that he sort of finds it in Clark, but when Clark finally rejects him, and it sort of forces him into other forms of acceptance. Because once Clark accepts him, he's able to have that moment with Carol in bed, and that goes horribly wrong. So there's a backwards, there's a two steps back with that, and then once Clark actually sort of doesn't isn't able to get the boner, the like that really is a real setback as well. And then the son seeing the dysfunction or what he perceives as dysfunction, it's just all too much for him. Um, but yeah, I mean, he really is just looking for place in this world, and he finds it in ASL, but no one else can really accept it about him.
As I watched, I was wondering like what could like improve their situation. It's the financial works into it, but that's not everything. And if they won $1 million, does that overnight change them? I don't think so. I think there's still lots of broken parts, pieces that don't fit together. He's often a square peg, it seems, in this family, and just trying to make it work. But the inside kind of knows, or does know that it's not there. It's love. They love each other, but they're not in love. And you kind of see that reaction from Clark to someone who is maybe in the early stages of falling in love, but someone who gives him that kind of emotional fulfillment. And the show is got it's all about perspective. So when you're watching it, like I said, you're watching at times it's a drama. At times there is comedy to it. There's a mystery going on. But at the end of the day, that line about no one's normal, they just look that way from across the street really stands out. The gut instinct is to interpret it as, well, you look and you think it's normal, but they're oddballs. But when you look at this family and you look at Floyd and you look at Carol, you start to see it as they look normal, but there's actually so much more behind them. As we learn, there's more heart and more humanity and more compassion and more drive than what you see. Do you see it this way? Do you see it kind of like half glass full, half empty type of dual perspective?
I think that's a great interpretation. I mean, what you just said sounds, right on the money. The idea is that we present an image of even the show itself as a metaphor. The show is an image of a dating app. It's going to be salacious. It's a sex app. There's a murder. And then the sex app just becomes me kissing Peter Sarsgaard, and the murder is not even a murder. So I think it is, this whole idea of no one's normal, nothing is as it seems. But when you go into it, you start to realize. I mean, the great thing about the show is that people's normalness is maybe their cliche, like, oh, Linda's a villain or Carol's a villain. And then as you go in, you realize what a survivor she is and how beautiful she is and how much she cares about things. And I think that sort of layering, peeling back the layers of people to a good center is what's sort of unique about the show. Because I often think as you peel back layers in narrative, people get worse, or the stories, the narratives are that people get worse. But I think our show is sort of more accurate to the reality of as you peel back the layers, there is good intention to most people.
I love the rap scene, the Thunder Boys. That must have been a lot of fun to do. Was that your first time rapping on camera? Was that
my first time rapping on camera for sure?
and do moments like that and dancing in your underwear and the amount that you have to put into the ASL and you're not just signing, you're putting everything into it. They feel both vulnerable and they feel joyful at the same time. Were they challenging for you? Are they thrilling? Is it going out there and putting yourself out there that way something that's easy for you?
I think it is really fun. I think thrilling is the word for it. The ASL was very hard and very challenging, but the exuberance of the dancing and the allowing this character to have even though he has a big body, like a lightness to his body and a certain joy to his body, because from his youth, he was a very physical guy. Like he was always interested in like even to do Playgirl, like to choose to go at 19 or whatever and shoot Playgirl. Like you got to be into your body in a certain way. And so I think that playing a very physical character in that way is really fun. And yeah, that concert with the ASL, the dance classes, like all that stuff is, and the rap and stuff, all that stuff is a blast. It's a blast to do like weird stuff like that.
Was the rap always, was that something that showed up later on, or was that always planned?
That has showed up later on. There was something in the script where it was like written sort of weird. And I said to Steve, I was like, what are we doing with this? This is kind of like a poem or something. He was like, I don't know. I was like, he was like, should we make it a song or something? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, that seems weird. It seems like HBO is going to throw those dailies out and make us reshoot it, but sure. And so we did it. And then surprisingly enough, they kept it in.
As a fan of the Beastie Boys, it's got a very Beastie Boy-esque feel,
Yeah,
and I loved
exactly.
it.
For
But it also
sure.
reminds me of like me being a kid with my friends riding on our bikes, thinking we were like rebels, suburbs of Buffalo. Nothing to rebel against, and just these two adults, say 30 years, 40 years and past where I was doing it, kind of just like letting go and becoming kids again is
Yeah,
just so
for
much fun to
sure.
watch.
For sure.
And how much work? You said it was a lot of work for the ASL. How long did you have to like? I think learning a language. I always wanted to learn another one as an adult. I tried, and I know a few lines.
Yeah.
I tried Polish, and then I'm like, that's it. I can ask for a beer. Beyond that, I'm no good. So how difficult was it, and how long was that process?
It was very difficult. About 4 months before we started, what was I doing? I think I was finishing up Stranger Things. Yeah, I was finishing up Stranger Things, and I got a coach in New York, and also one in Atlanta, and I was back and forth, and I would try every day or every other day to work with her. And I started because I wanted to be fluent in it as much as I could, as opposed to just sort of knowing the phrases. And we worked on it, and it was it's just very different to learn. Yeah, I'm not good at languages either, but to learn a language and then to learn it with your hands is so strange too. It's like the translation of your brain to your mouth seems easier than to your hands. But it was also very gratifying. It was really fun to be able to have a conversation with her and be able to express things. Then once we got on set, I just felt a certain confidence. I was able to even change things up or change words. Because part of the thing about ASL is one thing, and then what they do on the news is different. They can be a little crazier. I say crazier, but like a little freer form with the news stuff because they're really just trying to get your attention, trying to get you the meat of the story. They're not trying to, spell out every verb. They're just like going with it and trying to give you a hurricane or this or whatever. And so it was fun to also learn that technique, which was a totally different technique. And then there's the signing at concerts, which is, I watched a lot of these little videos of people who went viral. There's an amazing woman who does Baby Got Back at a concert, and she's incredible. And it's just her like twerking most of the time and then turning back and doing a couple signs, and then doing it again. And, it's just this expression of the music that's as important as the signs themselves, is that you're just conveying to a deaf audience or a hard of hearing audience, you're conveying what the music, feels like. And and so that was very interesting too, because there's a lot of creativity in that in terms of what you choose to express or how you choose to express it.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, the idea of it as a whole, I always was amazed by it. I'm like, and just so great that it allows people to connect who wouldn't be able to without it, but also to take it the next step further, to take for the dance. Baby's got back. I mean, what that artist or what that interpreter brings to it is something that obviously reading words or watching a video is not going to do. And I think it's just amazing. So, are you continuing with it? Do you keep up with it at all?
The ASL.
Yeah.
I stopped for a while, but I do want to get back to it, to be honest. But I have stopped for a little while.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things like that at this age become like sit-ups, and I skipped once. All right,
That's exactly
I'll be back in a few
right.
months.
That's exactly right.
Or in my case, never. I need to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I'm watching Floyd, I see way too much of myself. And it comes typically when you have your shirt off. So one thing I never expected was to be so emotionally moved by a show called DTF St. Louis. When I got the screeners, I was like, I had never heard of it. And I just put them aside. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll check it out, because I didn't see the art, so I didn't know who was in it. If I did, I'd be on watching it day one. But I set it aside and thinking, oh, this is some sort of, like docu, sensationalized expose on online sex or something. And then I step in, I watch it, and I meet these characters, and I fall in love with them. And I was just thinking, how many different ways this series can connect, as we're discussing ASL and from the perspective of a relationship, of a marriage, and father, son, all these different things, different ways that audiences can kind of enjoy it or process it on their own. What have the reactions been like? And have you had people stepped up and spoken to you about different aspects of your performance?
Yeah, I mean, people love it. I've been very gratified that I think people have embraced it in a way that I wasn't sure that they would. I, we were kind of a small show in a certain way, but I think that it's found a broader audience, and I think people just love these characters, and I think they just love the sort of genre bending quality of it, that they can't quite figure it out. It's a risky show. It's got a delicate tone. It's definitely like takes a swing, and it's also not for everybody. But I think that the people that love it. And I get, it's funny, like you get, when you're walking on the street, you get people come up to you like, oh man, hey man, I love Stranger Things. And then the people that love DTF are like, hi, I just want to tell you, I watched DTF and it really just moved me. And they go on like a whole monologue. And I like love that response, because it just means that it's operating on a level, like people are watching it with an intensity, and it's just really great when you make something that makes people think and feel. I love that.
Yeah, there's so much to dissect, and there's so much, like I said, that can connect with you in different ways depending who you are. And I love series like that you don't stop thinking about. And this is one of those. When I go back into it, I'm not watching a repeat. I'm exploring now at a new level. I'm kind of taking in new things. So it's I've really enjoyed. I've watched it like 2.5 times and really enjoyed it every time.
Oh wow!
In
Yeah,
slightly
yeah.
different ways.
Yeah.
And I don't usually ask questions like this and ask for
Oh.
your interpretation, but at the very end with Richard, and this is a spoiler territory. Richard and Floyd, they have that moment. Floyd flashes that, pounds in the window, flashes the "I love you," and that's the end. He doesn't run out. He doesn't stop him. And I'm thinking, after all the progress he's made, connecting and finding a connection, and with not only with Clark, but with Richard, and starting, with the moments with the bed sheets, and seeing this kind of, maybe still broken family, but family kind of reformulating a little bit, or starting to take, to grow in some ways. Why does he decide not to run out there? And like, that's what I was hoping for. I'm like, go, stop him, and then he quits. He gives up. What is it that doesn't push him to carry on and to fight for that?
That really is where I started with the character. I mean, he realizes in that moment, Richard will probably, it's the darkest place in the whole show, and it's the reason why it goes actually to suicide. He realizes that he's ruined Richard's life. I think in that way, Richard opened up to him, was able to trust him, sort of doing better in school. Like all this stuff happened where he opened up. And I think in that moment, Floyd realizes that his biology is somehow fundamentally broken and incompatible with taking care of this kid, because he needs this thing. And he realizes in that moment that Richard's going to be scarred and going to go back to worse than throwing milk. And I mean, it's going to be awful. And I think on some level, the only way, he can't talk his way out of it. because it is so present, so biological and stuff. The only thing he can do is kill himself in the hope that maybe that will somehow have some kind of resonance. That like this is dysfunctional. I am a piece of garbage. And like I think that is the mysterious, incompatible final moment. I was fascinated by it with Hopper as well, where there are certain things in life that happen and we all just like continue on. But when those things happen, like the death of a child, like Hopper's child was 5 years old and died of cancer. And uh, you go like, how do you wake up in the morning? Like, what do you do? Walk around and stuff. And I think that this is like one of those moments where it's and Floyd checks out. He's like he realizes that he can't. There's no going home. There's no. It's over. And in a way, I think there is a piece of him that feels like it could be a generous gesture to Richard. As fucked up and weird as it sounds, it's like you can write me off now. You can write me off. You can still live, but you can just write me off as a fucking weirdo or whatever. Um, yeah, it's a very mysterious moment. It's very dark. It's very dark. But also I didn't want to underplay the like reality of life in that moment where there's certain things that if a kid sees or if things happen that it just can't be undone.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Every time I try to like put myself in his shoes, I'm just thinking, as a father, it's difficult even at the worst moments. Well, you know what? No one, you're kind of the Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. Like no one needs me. Be better off without me. But then at the same time, there's something that always pulls you back in from the darkest moments. And
Yes.
like you're as even when you're watching it a second time, like, oh please, this time, director's cut where all goes well. And like, but as a parent too, he must be thinking, well, there's a life insurance money. You've done enough damage. Maybe this is his way of correcting it. But I'm like, obviously not the best solution, and it's very dark. And but it hits a lot on a lot of different levels. And I think bravo on that. So it's and it says a lot about what happens before it, that it does hit before it on it, because you all took chances, you made something weird, but at the end of the day, it's still something very human and there's themes and moments and emotions that run through real life, and it nails it. So as strange as which life is often very strange. If people hung out and recorded one day of your life, they'd be like, oh, I didn't expect that. We're not just wake up and run through a routine. So it's amazing how that was captured.
Thank you.
And well, thank you. And one more question about your work. You touched upon Hopper, and I thought, again, as a father, that role meant a lot. And those final moments with 11 were very emotional. And I was, so again, bravo on that. I just thought elevate it beyond so much more than just this sci-fi series and make it, as a parent, as a friend, and all these different things and connect with you is, I think, the magic of it that doesn't get talked about enough is how it taps into parts of life, growing up and loss and all that as well. What was it like on your last day of shooting? And what did you shoot that day? Saying goodbye.
My last day of shooting was the wedding thing with Winona, the marriage, and it was very surreal, because we were talking about moving to Montauk, and me being the police chief in Montauk, and originally 11 years ago, Winona and I sat down, and the show was called Montauk. And we were like going to be shooting a show in New York about Montauk. So there was something like quite fun and surreal that the Duffers put in for us, really. Nobody really knew about Montauk, but they put that stuff in, I think, mainly for us. Stranger Things had been a whole roller coaster of all kinds of things. And so I think those last few weeks, really, because I showed up to the last day of shooting was the kids doing the D&D, and I showed up there too, right as right before they wrapped, and heard them give all their speeches and stuff. And it was that to me was almost more like me and Winona were like the parents. So it's like our birthdays are like whatever. It's like let's go to the kid's birthday, and we went to the kid. I went to the kid's birthday, and it was like really it was just really beautiful to watch these kids who'd grown up on this show and just see how much they loved it, how much they loved each other, and how much they loved the crew, and how sweet they were. And just to think about meeting them when they were like 11 and 12, and it's just nuts. It's just really almost too weird and profound for any sort of simple response.
I mean, that's a great response. Again, that's what life is. There is no simple answer if you really break it down, except for what do you want for dinner, which is never
yeah, exactly.
Never simple. All right. Well, let's close out with a few more TV topics questions and get you on your way. You rub your remote control and a genie comes out and offers you this TV-based wish. What TV show do you want one more season of? It could be a prequel. It can be an extra season anywhere in the middle or tagged on to the end of its run. Same cast. It's the magic question.
Well, I mean, I do love True Detective. I like all the seasons, but I truly love that first season with Woody and Matthew McConaughey. I'd really like one more season of that.
And to close out, so you have a magic door in your room. When you enter that door, you are living in a TV show. Any TV show, you get to partake, you get to be a part of that world, not just an observer. And when you go in there, time stops on your real life, so you don't miss anything. And when you come out, time picks back up. Which show would be on the other side of that door?
The cartoon version of Dungeons and Dragons. I go through the roller coaster with those kids, and I'm in the magical Dungeons and Dragons realm.
I'm guessing that was the 80s. I don't recall that.
Yeah, that was Saturday morning cartoons in the 80s.
I don't know that one. My brother would know that one, I'm sure.
I loved it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today and your work on the series and Stranger Things. And I look forward to seeing what you do next. I know you have a lot coming up.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it.